Hello and welcome to today's talk on the reproductive system.
When we talk about the reproductive system, we're talking about how human beings make more of themselves. So we have the male reproductive system, which produces sperm, and the female reproductive system, which produces eggs and also incubates the fetus. So we'll talk about the female reproductive system on Wednesday, and then we'll continue on with pregnancy. Today we're focusing. So the male reproductive system has sort of three main processes. There's the initial production of sperm. There's the transport of sperm and things that are supporting the sperm in semen from the testes to the eventual release into the female reproductive tract, ideally from the perspective of the male. And then there is the erection and intercourse. Now the male reproductive and the female reproductive system develop from the a lot of the same tissues in early development. So the gonads start as undeveloped indifferent gonads, which then differentiate either into testes or into ovaries. The part that is different, there is separate sets of tubes, the Mullerian duct or the Wolffian duct. The Wolffian duct is what will turn into the spermatic cords connecting the testes, whereas the Mullerian duct is what would connect to the ovaries, forming the fallopian tubes. So the testes develop early on in the abdomen in the same place that the ovaries develop. Only very shortly before birth that the testes actually descend fully into the scrotum. So they migrate down from that initial position right near the kidneys down into the scrotum over the course of pregnancy. It's not common for male infants to be born with undescended testes. Now, most of those infants, the testes will descend normally in the first year. If they don't, they have to be moved down into the scrotum surgically, or they will probably be infertile and have a higher risk of testicular cancer. Now, in the moving of these testes down into the scrotum, there's also a set of cords that are connecting these testes to everything else in the body. And the spermatic cord contains some muscles that allow the positioning of the scrotum and testes. It contains the veins and arteries. It contains the nerves. And it also contains the actual ductus deferens that allows the sperm to be carried from the testes back into the body and then eventually out. So in the spermatic cord, there is an external fascia, which is a fibrous tissue protective sheath. You've seen that a lot. A cremasteric fascia, which is another connective tissue sheath. And then internal spermatic fascia inside, but in between there you have the cremasteric fascia, that you've got the smooth muscle that allows movement and positioning in here, and also compresses the ductus deferens to move the sperm along through the ductus deferens. Inside there you have the arteries and the veins, and you also have the nerves and that duct. So In the scrotum, you have the cremaster muscle, which allows the movement of the testes. You have the actual testis itself. And moving in here, you also have the epididymis. We'll talk, and the testis itself is protected by the tunica vaginalis, which is another fibrous tissue sheath. As I said, those fibrous tissue sheaths around organs come up a lot. So, all of this is in. Let's take a closer look at and we've split the scrotum, we've cut it in half, and you can see what's going on in each side. Now, you can see the testes here, and then inside the testes there are septa, dividers, that run down the length and divide up parts of the testes. And then between those septa are the seminiferous tubules, where the sperm are actually produced. Around the testis is the tunica albuginea, or the tunica vaginalis, and then also inside this testis you have the lining of the scrotal cavity. You have the rete testis, which is still in the testis, where the sperm come out of the seminiferous tubule into the rete testis. You have the skin and the muscles surrounding all of this, and then those nerves and arteries and veins. So, focusing in on the testis, what does the testis do? I'm sure you all have this basic concept: the testis produces sperm, right? So, the testis is divided by these septa into lobules, each of which is made up of very finely wound seminiferous tubules. So these seminiferous tubules are very convoluted, very tightly wound, and there's a long distance that anything is going to end of those before it reaches this rete testis, where it's uncoiled and can move on to the epididymis.